When I married my husband, I knew that he was an overweight, lazy video game nerd, and I loved him anyway for his warm heart and kind personality. He detested exercise, stayed a low rank at his career because he put in minimum effort, and we bonded. Moreover, activities like watching movies together at home rather than going out. He went on this camping trip with his friends 2 years ago, and did shrooms. He had never done drugs before, and had he consulted me I would have told him that was a terrible idea, and when he came home, it was like something had lit a fire under his butt. He completely changed interests, he never played video games again and took up running, reading books even though I'd never seen him read before except for school, and several other completely random hobbies. He became a vegetarian even though, before, he'd been a meat and potatoes guy. He worked harder at his job, then did an accelerated grad school program and ended up making tons more money. I barely recognize him. We still have a good marriage, and I still love him, and he has motivated me to be better in the last 2 years, but I can't help but wonder if those drugs knocked a screw loose. Could this be dangerous? I'm deeply concerned. I know that people change, but about all that's left of him is his warm heart. No one shares my concerns because all his changes have been positive, but I feel like he's so different. Maybe we need marriage counseling so I can adapt, at least. And amp, #X200B, edit, wow, this blew up. Thank you all. I'm still trying to read all your responses. I will read them all. I think some additional context is required. This personality change has required more than adapting to my husband becoming a new person. Our lives are very different now. Before, we saw our friends once a week and mostly hung out around the house. Now, we are extremely social, and to put our exercise habits in perspective, we got a high-energy border collie and she gets the amount of daily exercise the vet recommended. I've been caught up in a whirlwind of change I didn't expect, and it's just a lot to process, but don't get me wrong, I am proud of my husband. I posted here to get outside perspective, and have been given lots of advice to research psychedelics. I am in the process of finding sources of information that I consider unbiased, and am looking into it. I stand by that anyone would be concerned if their husband came home from a camping trip with a different personality and completely changed their lifestyle, but I'm calming down about it. I think I might have enough perspective from posting here to address this with my husband, now. We've talked about it before, but I've been reluctant to voice my concerns because he's doing so well and I felt it would come off as criticism. It's possible I stewed on this for so long it became a bigger issue to me than it actually was. I think I'm going to suggest that I pursue individual therapy for a while, since hundreds of people have pointed out that the problem is with me and not him or our relationship.
I think more what happened was the drugs knocked whatever was blocking him off loose. It's quite common after psychedelics, and they are being used more commonly in medicine for this reason. They are a good treatment for PTSD, depression and anxiety. And research into other uses in mental health is ongoing. I get that the sudden personality change might be a lot to get your head round, but it probably is the effect of some sort of healing for your husband, so I wouldn't necessarily be concerned for him on this basis. Does he seem happier with his life now? It def sounds like it.
Deleted.
I was an overweight, nerdy guy who detested exercise. I married and had 3 kids. One day I realized I had it all, a great marriage, great kids, and I wanted to be around as long as possible to enjoy it. I started to exercise, eat better, which changed my attitudes about things. I still enjoy the occasional video game, but also as much or more a hiking with the family. Being in better shape allows you to do more.
If a metaphorical screw was indeed knocked loose, it sounds like the one that was keeping him immobile and unproductive. The analogy I'm about to make is gross, I know, but it sounds like your husband was spiritually constipated, and the mushrooms were the necessary laxative. The direct effects of the shrooms probably wore off long ago, but now that he has a taste of success in his life, he's not looking back.
Best shrooms ad ever.
Hi there. I am a 4th-year medical student preparing to start my training in psychiatry. When I read your headline I immediately thought, did her husband take a psychedelic drug? This is not an uncommon result of taking magic mushrooms, DMT, LSD, or a myriad of other hallucinogenic drugs. Psychiatrists and other scientists hypothesize that these drugs can cause long-lasting positive changes in patients, and your husband is an example of this. To our knowledge, this is not dangerous. Psilocybin mushrooms are one of the safest recreational drugs around. So, your husband is likely completely healthy. However, I do recognize what a change this is for you, and you are having difficulty adjusting. Have you spoken to your husband about this much? How does he explain his experience? Apparently this is more common than I thought. Also overweight, lazy, video game nerd. I put up with a ton of anxiety my whole life and up until my mid-20s. I never even dated anyone because of it, and I just didn't feel like dragging someone into my boring life. Started experimenting, mostly edibles, but did LSD once. My personality shift was pretty striking, almost overnight. I went from being aggressively annoyed by everything and everyone to being super receptive of touch and crowds and people in general, and wanting to better my life. I suddenly loved the outdoors, I loved exercise, nature, I wanted to live life to my fullest. Proceeded to lose 120 pounds, get a better job and get jacked. I wouldn't say it knocked a screw loose, more like tightened one that was about to fall out. It's like all my anxiety was lifted and I no longer cared about how I was perceived and did things for me and me alone. I no longer procrastinated and left things to chance and started taking more risks that I normally wouldn't because of my anxiety. I would say I am still the person I was 10 years ago, just less anxious and more open. It hasn't changed the way I treat anyone or my closest friends. They've all embraced the big change and are happy. For me.
Deleted.
It seems like the shrooms helped him to become more motivated. If you need answers or more understanding, have you tried talking with him about what changed? If you feel like you need counseling and he agrees, then give it a try. Or maybe you could even try mushrooms yourself. Research is showing that mushrooms contain a compound that helps people overcome conditions such as depression, anxiety, PTSD, etc. It helps our brains make new connections and break old cycles.
Deleted.